Hey guys, welcome to the LT Brings the Heat podcast. We're your hosts, Sean Laird and Adam Heisler, where we talk about baseball and sports performance. With topics ranging from coaching, business, and player development, our goal is to bring you a no BS approach to development in baseball and sports performance. Hope you guys enjoy. Let's rock and roll. Hey guys, welcome to the episode of LT Brings the Heat. We're your hosts, Sean Laird and Adam Heisler. We are going to talk about multi-sport athletes today. Basically, the title of this is going to be the myth of multiple sport athletes. And me and Adam have talked about this back and forth via text and in person, just joking around and stuff. And this topic, I get annoyed because it's so popular nowadays. People talking about, hey, multiple sport athletes. Hey, Mike Trout did this sport and that sport, and LeBron James played all these sports. And, you know, whoever it is, some elite athlete, they'll say, hey, these guys played multiple sports, and basically inferring that that's the reason why who they are today. And we're kind of going to bust some myths, but we're also going to talk about why multiple sports are important. Because I guess we might as well get this out of the way. Like, I believe that you should be playing multiple sports 100%. I know Adam does as well. But there's certain things that are said on, and things you see on social media, and certain people that say certain things about these multiple sport athletes, and they're completely untrue and unfounded. While at the same time, it's like they're pushing kind of an agenda of like, hey, go do all these different things. But, you know, there are gymnasts and there are Olympic athletes that do one sport and train all the time, and they're very, very successful and world class. So we're going to kind of play devil's advocate and make sure we're working on both sides here. And also, like, me and Adam might not have agreement in these opinions here. So whatever Adam, I have no idea what Adam's going to say. We're all going to talk straight from the heart here and straight from the mind and use our experience and, you know, our knowledge and education. But we don't make sure that we give everybody listening our experience with training hundreds of athletes and knowing what to expect and how to build multiple sport athletes, but also understanding when it is to kind of focus on developing maybe one sport or two sports or so forth. But Adam, how's everything going, brother? What you got?
Yeah, man, everything's going great down here. A lot of the seasons have kicked off now. I think we're up to 5 home runs already. So I know me and Sean both got a road to 100 this year. So once you guys get cranked up in Indiana, I'm excited to start seeing some videos posted and start seeing some pictures of some kids hitting some dingers out there, because it's the time is here, and all that time you spent in the off season, whether it was in the weight room or in lessons, it's now time to shine and go out there and perform. But no, I'm glad we're hitting on this today, because we both believe in multi-sport stuff. It's just kind of, what are the advantages of it and what's the disadvantages of it? Just like anything in life, there's not a perfect answer out there. But what we're going to kind of do is try to create some whys to do it or whys not to do it. So I'm excited to talk about this one. I think we're going to kind of share some different opinions, some different ideas on this, and kind of run with it. And just leave this podcast knowing we're not trying to tell you it's got to be one way or the other. You can make that decision up for yourself. But just like anything, make a pro and cons board, see what works out for you. And if you enjoy playing multiple sports, continue to do it. But if you're playing multiple sports just to say you're a multi-sport athlete, like, you're in it for the wrong thing. You're in my opinion, kind of just wasting your time out there. So you really got to understand how dedicated you are to this whole thing. So what about you guys? What's going on up there?
Well, yeah, we actually are finishing our velo program up. We got 2 more weeks left. And it's one thing I love the velo program because, you know, and these camps that we do in the wintertime, because it makes the time go by fast, because it's obviously our coldest part of the year. It also sucks that it goes fast because we're training with all these guys and they're getting ready for season, and ends up being more the training, the semi-private, our lesson atmosphere more on, and we start holding those camps later on in the summer. But we start season up here in literally 3 weeks. Like, the practice games will start in 3 weeks, and then they'll go into actual season by the end of March. So it's actually, we are right around the corner up here in Indiana. And we have a heat wave today. It's 45 degrees. So we're expecting we're expecting the snow to finally melt. We've had a foot of snow on the ground forever. But we're really pumped and really excited. We've had I had a couple softball girls that increased 5 mile an hour in the velocity. We had a young guy that increased a total of 7 mile an hour yesterday, which was really cool. So we just been really pumped about that. And we actually said this goal. We said this goal actually about a month ago on the podcast. Maybe it was 2 months ago, about helping guys with timing. And I started doing some different things, kind of prepping them with timing a little bit more and changing speeds and stuff. And I've got to say, like, our guys have never been more prepared for season, like how I'm seeing the guys hit and everything. So I'm really pumped and excited, and start working toward that count to 100 bombs this year, like you were talking about. It's going to be fun. But yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to the topic to the day for the listeners here, As we said, and we stated earlier, like we believe in playing multiple sports. We believe in trying to make sure that you are as well-rounded of an athlete as possible. What we do not believe in, and like Adam stated, and I've heard Adam say this multiple times, is you shouldn't be playing another sport just because you want to play, because somebody's playing another sport if you're terrible at it, if you're not very good at it, if you're just playing to be busy. That's at the higher levels. And I guess I'll go into a little detail, and I don't want to speak for Adam, so I obviously you can clear that up as we get going. But for me, this is what I think about when it comes to being a parent and being a coach. And I think what we need to do is we need to normalize activity. We need to make sure that our kids are, doing gymnastics or doing, baseball, football, basketball, track, and getting as many activities as possible. Not just because we want them to be great athletes or we want to develop certain motor skills and, the experiences that come with life, working with a bunch of different diverse personalities and diverse cultures and other kids. But the main thing that we do this is we want them, like 50% of the United States is obese. We want these kids to have fitness and have health in their life. And there's so much research that talks about, physical activity and participating in sports helps you with that health, from a physical standpoint, but also as a mental standpoint as well. And so I can't stress enough as a parent of three, how important it is for me to make sure the kids are in the weight room with me, or I'm taking the kids to gymnastics, or I'm taking the kids to, jujitsu, or doing something along those lines as I'm planning on starting them in the fall. I want people to listen and to understand, like, you can't just wait 6-7 years and all of a sudden be like, oh, okay, we're going to start doing sports now after they've already developed a plan and developed some type of a routine. I actually listened to an article to a podcast with Jordan Peterson, and there was a couple other guys on there, and they were talking about the most important years of a person's life or a child's life are those first 7 years. And everything, they pretty much soak everything up like a sponge. And if that is true, which I believe it is true, obviously with the research and all the psychology that's going on into what they were saying, those first 7 years, we need to be getting them as many sports as possible. We need to get them as many experiences as possible, as much education as possible. And I can't stress enough how much sports has changed my life, and, playing football and boxing and baseball and all these things growing up, and the friends and lifelong friends that I met and have still to this day, from playing. I just wanted to get that out, that like we do believe in multiple sports and we do think it's so important, and we want to normalize that process. But for the people that are just starting out in life, for kids, I think that's the most important thing for us to get across today is, yes, let's get them in multiple sports, but we're going to talk about a more advanced part of this process as we get going. But Adam, I kind of want to know your views on kind of what I just said and about this whole thing with getting kids used to activity and kind of your thought as a parent as well.
Yeah, and I think a big part is talking about the youth versus kind of the teenage years and understanding what we're trying to do there. So I'm a huge believer in, when you're 12-year-old and younger, do whatever sport is in season, whether it's track, it's baseball, it's football, it's basketball, it's gymnastics, it's softball, whatever it is, do as many of those as possible to build coordination. Coordination is such a big thing that is being built through these multi-sports that they are playing, and that's what translates to better athletes as they get older. A lot of the guys that are great athletes and that you see that are these multi-sport stars that end up picking one down the road, when they were younger, they were developing the skill set. And so from the very young age of 5 or 6 or 7, like Sean was saying, you're developing coordination and skill set that helps you translate to be the best athlete that you can be. So it's very rare that you see a kid start at 12 years old. Hey, I want to start playing sports now. It's a little too late. They're going to be so far behind in the coordination standpoint. It doesn't happen. So let them play these sports when they're young. Also, they kind of find their path of what they really enjoy, what they're good at, what they're not good at. Like we talked about last time, is like, you understand, hey, this isn't a strength for me. So I played it. I participated. I went to practice. I didn't quit. I made it through the whole year. But just next year, I'm probably not going to do this sport. It didn't fit me. I wasn't into it like I was supposed to be. A big thing too is, if you're not getting psyched up about wanting to go to practice to these things, you're wasting your time. And you're wasting your time, you're wasting your parents' time, because you're not fully invested in trying to play the sport. So it goes back to saying, are you signing up to play a multi-sport because your friends are playing and you just want to join up with them? Or are you signing up because you really enjoy doing this and you think, hey, this might be something I want to do in the future as I get to those high school ranks. So let's differentiate from the youth level to play as many as possible. And then as you start to get to those teenage years, 13, 14, 15, you'll start to kind of narrow your path down on what you think is working for you. So people that are going to listen to this podcast think we're going to push baseball on everybody just because this is what the business we do and this is how we feed our family. That is not the case. We post all the time about Sean posts with his wrestlers that he's training, his football guys he's training. I would post highlights in the fall of our baseball players that are playing football to kind of give them shout outs too, because I love seeing them do something on the field that I'm not visually at them with, and see their environment and how their attitudes are different, their mindsets are different playing football versus when they come to the baseball side of things. So as you get older, really start to hone in on the ones that you're good at and you can excel at. If you're kind of just sitting the bench on the soccer team just to say that, hey, I'm playing a multi-sport, you're wasting your time yet again. Where imagine if you're in the weight room, or imagine if you're starting to do a throwing velocity program. I think pitchers, that's another big thing. If you're mainly a pitcher and you're starting to understand this is becoming a year-round thing that pitchers have to take care of their bodies. They got to build the engine. They got to build their arm, and not necessarily go throw in games or throw 80 pitches on the tournament weekend. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about you have to build the process, as opposed to kind of just sitting around wasting your time playing a sport that you're really not even playing and getting the good benefits out of. Because you're going to talk about from a mental standpoint, mentality-wise, you learn so much in all these sports. And that's more what I love than anything, is as opposed to just the athletic skill set you're building, is this mentality you're building when you play football. Me and Sean both play football. Those 2 days in the summer are brutal. If you can get through those, you can get through anything in life. If you can get through those spring trainings, if you can get through the 3 hours in pads, like if you can do that, you're mentally tough to go out there and get through anything in life. Football practice is by far the hardest practice, in my opinion, versus anything else that I've ever played. Basketball was cruising. Baseball was fine. As that football practice hits different, and you're developing mental toughness there. Basketball, you're developing a little interaction with team, but at the same time, it's a lot of times one-on-one, you versus that guy that you're guarding all night. So you're developing that skill. And then when you get to the baseball field, everything's out of control. It's just when you're at the plate, eyes are on you, or if you're in the mound, eyes are on you. So more importantly is just the mentality that you're understanding from these sports, and how do you blend those together? Because that's ultimately what's going to turn you into the best competitor out there. So I just think the big thing is differentiating from do as many as possible, like you said, kind of during the season, whatever sport is in season at that youth age. And then as you get older, start to see where your avenues are going. You understand that, hey, I played middle school basketball, played freshman year basketball, but I knew I wasn't going to grow to be very tall. So height is very important in basketball. So I kind of just said, hey, I enjoy playing it, but I just think I could spend my time getting ready for the baseball season versus that 3 months of basketball. And then you have to jump right into baseball season, because you'll see that happen a lot as well. But what's kind of your take on things? I know you hit a little bit on it from the youth levels, but when do you think parents should really start to try to push, or athletes should start to try to decide on what sports they want to actually play and which ones are they going to excel at?
Absolutely. And I think you talking about 12 years and younger of playing a sport that's in season, I think those are great ages. And that's a very good point. You can maybe go up to 13 years old. But I'd say right around that 13-year-old age range, as your kids are playing multiple sports and they're playing all these different sports, and you as a parent, but also as coaches, and you need to ask advice, you need to ask opinions from coaches like, hey, where does my kid stand? Is he like really up there, the top tier? Not to say like maybe I need to pull this kid out if he's not, Mike Trout on the baseball field, or, Tom Brady on the football field. It's just to get an idea of like where his skills lie. And then as they get older, also their loves and what they really enjoy, their passion. Because if they have their passion and love for a certain, like maybe one or two specific sports, as well as that talent and skills developing, that's the avenue they want to take. Because at the end of the day, like, we do things, we play sports to have fun, play in competitive atmosphere. But, as athletes, and teaching athletes, the world is a competitive place. Getting a job is a competitive place. Sooner or later, that turns in that passion, is intertwined with wanting to be the best and playing at the highest level. So once that decision happens, and once we start getting that, and usually it's playing at the higher levels, experiencing failure a little bit, those things are kind of a smack in the face of like, okay, this is where I want to get better. I want to work a lot harder in this. So the big thing that's talked about all the time is they'll throw all these names out there. This guy was a multiple sport athlete. Now he's making $350 million, this big contract. And I'll get this out of the way real quick. you don't become a Mike Trout by playing multiple sports. Mike Trout is Mike Trout, and that's why he played multiple sports. He's very athletic, very talented. He could do multiple different sports. And I'm just using Trout as a reason just because I actually saw somebody talking about him. Scott Rowland is a big Indiana legend. That dude had, Division I scholarships, I think, to Georgia and places to go play basketball. He was a two-sport athlete through high school. Obviously, he went and played baseball, and hopefully sooner or later going to make the Hall of Fame. This year, he went up in percentage votes, which would be really cool. It's a Bulls fam guy. But there's certain age levels, and that you are like, okay, what does my son want to do? Does my son want to be a college baseball player? Does he want to be a college football player? And like Adam said, like we obviously are baseball guys. I train a lot of wrestlers and football guys as well. It doesn't matter the sport or sports if it's 1 to 2. If they have a goal of playing it at another level or at the highest level possible, it is not realistic to sit here and say that you're going to play 4 or 5 sports a year and only play that sport 3 months out of the calendar year. It's not realistic to sit there and think that you're going to be able to compete with somebody that's training 10 to 12 months out of the year for that sport. It's not realistic at all. And let's talk about like elite athletes. Like, the majority of people that play sports at the amateur level are not elite athletes, period. It doesn't matter what you think about, Jimmy down the street, majority of them are not. And out of those elite athletes, there's even less and very, very small percentage of them are world-class athletes. There's only been like something like 19,000 and some odd change of actual MLB players in the history of the game. Like, think about that. Like I live in a small city of 80,000 people. Like that's 20% of the city to live in. That's absolutely mind-boggling to think about that. It's the best of the best. So to be the best of the best, sooner or later, you got to make a decision. And I'm going to give a couple examples of certain guys as we get going. But, if your son is wanting to play baseball and he's, say he's 6 foot and weighs 120 pounds and he's a freshman in high school, are you setting him up for success by telling him he should be playing soccer and swimming, two very, and depending on the sport and swimming, two very high endurance activities, and he's only 120 pounds soaking wet, and his passion and his goal and drive is to be a college baseball player? 6 foot, 6'1", 120 pounds is not a physical specimen by any means. So we've got to understand what the goals are and what the priorities are for each athlete. Now, if they have a passion for swimming and soccer, so be it. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in detail, but I'll give an example. I've had kids in the past, say they were 2-sport athletes, say they were football and baseball players. I had one kid specifically, I'm not going to use any names, obviously, just, to keep everything, private. But I had one guy that was a very, very good baseball player and a very, very good football player. He wanted to play college baseball. He knew that he needed to put on 30 pounds. As we know in football, it's very highly demanding, like Adam, you were saying, 2-a-days, and you do 2 months in the summer, and then you got 3 to 4 months in the fall. He knew that he wanted to maximize his ability on the baseball field. So he made a decision, and this wasn't my decision. I didn't push him to this. I just told him, like, hey, if you want to put on 30 pounds of muscle and you want to throw harder, you want to hit further, hit harder, you're going to have to put these days and this time into it. Like, you can't just do it once a week. Like, you're going to have to do it 3-4 days a week in this off season. And he made a decision that he didn't want to play football. He wanted to focus on baseball. Anyways, long story short, he trained with us all off season, actually increased and went up 33 pounds of muscle, increased his fastball velocity to the mid 90s. And he ended up not playing that year, but he achieved all the goals that he wanted to achieve. And he went back and played football his senior year before going and playing college baseball. And so he kind of took 1 year off to focus on his development and understood. And this guy was an elite athlete, an elite strength level. But even with those, knowing that, he had so much more capability and so much more of a ceiling that he wouldn't have been able to reach until 3-4 years down the road, maybe, if he wouldn't have spent that time. And he was in the weight room 3-4 times a week, hitting and throwing 3-4 times a week. And just the amount of gains this guy had was phenomenal. So that's kind of the high-end athlete perspective. Now let's look at another guy. I have another guy that is, again, not going to use any names, that throws absolute gas right now. And if you would have looked at him 6 years ago, and this is from other coaches thought he was nothing special. Didn't think that he was going to be a Division I athlete by any means. it was kind of like people would probably consider him like, not mentally tough, and by any means, he would probably say the exact same thing. I was mentally weak and, weak physically, as most kids are in middle school. Anyways, and I'm trying to be as clear as possible, obviously not using any names, just bear with me, guys. So over the course of the next 5 years, this guy made a decision that he was going to train in the weight room and be consistent in the weight room. And it wasn't just him, it was also his parents. His dad wanted to put his kid in the best possible position for success. His dad knew that if his son wanted to be at this certain level, and his dad saw that there was something in him that was going to be absolutely, a bulldog, an absolute stud. I saw something in the kid that was going to be there too. But, it doesn't take, like, 95% of the kid could show an average athlete. But if there's 5% that show this guy has something that's untouchable or something that's there, that guy can build himself into an elite athlete. I'm a firm believer in that. And this kid, over the course of 5 years, just developed himself into an absolute physical specimen. And each year you saw, and this is what's most important for people that are talking about building elite athletes and building these superstar, multi-sport, like I could do all these different sports. This kid had a little bit of an increase the first year, a little bit more the second year, a huge jump the third year, another little bit more the next year, and then a big jump. Like, it was just this constant increase. And there were days where he seemed like he was failing. It seemed like he was dropping, and then days he just jumped up dramatically. But the most important thing is he was consistent. This kid is obviously, a superstar, throwing hard, throwing gas. He if you would see him now, he looks like a physical specimen. If that kid decided to play other sports over the course of those 5 years, would he be the athlete he is today? And people are going to sit there, and most people are going to listen to this and go, yeah, of course. Well, you say he had something in him. I'm going to tell you right now, 100% no way in hell, if that kid didn't put in the 5 years in the weight room, didn't put the 5 years of throwing and building up his arm and long toss and arm care, developing his velocity, developing his core, developing power. If he didn't focus those 5 years on doing those things and not one sport year round, he would not be where he is today. And that's just a fact of this game. And I've trained the highest level of athletes, all Division I All-Americans. I've trained the lowest level of amateur 10-year-olds that are just starting baseball. And I've seen that development. And this is not an opinion. This, to me, is fact. Other people can have a difference of opinion, but it's not going to change what I feel, because I've seen these guys develop at these levels. And if this kid played other sports, he got so much, he turned into so much of an athlete that people wanted him to play other sports. Like, other coaches were trying to promote him into other sports. They wanted him to be on the football team because he was a physical specimen. They wanted him to do all these other things, but he knew what his goals were. He knew what he wanted to do. And just like one of the dads that I had talked to, one of my clients' dads, he's a good friend of mine. He's like, all these people talk about multi-sport athletes and all this stuff. It's like saying, hey, do I want filet for dinner? He's like, hell yeah, I want filet for dinner. Like, we all want that. We all want these multiple sport athletes, but not everybody's built like to be a multiple sport athlete. Some guys have to work year round and build at their passion or whatever that sport is to become that elite level athlete or to become that guy. And I've said this before in the podcast. Conor McGregor says he has zero talent. He said he worked and built himself into the elite athlete. Do you think Conor McGregor becomes Conor McGregor if he's playing soccer and, doing, let's say he was doing basketball too, all the time, year round, and just fighting a couple months out of the year? Hell no, it's not going to happen. But I wanted to give those two examples of the elite athlete and the guy that wasn't an elite athlete, just an average athlete that turned himself and built himself into an elite athlete. And it's so important for you guys to understand that, because people talk about, hey, it's okay to be, 3-4 sports. There's another kid that played basketball, football, baseball. Like, people want to be that want to be a 4-year letter winner in high school for all 3 sports and get 4 letters. This kid was a super athlete, very quick, very fast. He graduated high school and went to play college baseball. This was a few years back. And this kid was 100% going to be good enough to play college baseball. Was he as ready as he could have been for college by playing 3 sports? Hell no, he wasn't as ready as he could have been. But because he's a super athlete, once he gets to college, that's a classic example of, like, as you know, Adam, like a Jake Overstreet. Once they play something, start year round, then they're going to really blossom in college and take over. But if you're not that already well-rounded super athlete, it's not going to happen for you. You can't wait that long. It's going to be too late by the time that happens. And I know I wanted to make sure I got these examples as specific as possible. And Adam, I want you to really touch on as much as you can here and examples for you as well right here.
Yeah, and you mentioned the guys that are off to kind of good starts, and there's a lot of hitters that are getting to really good starts this year. And it was the most I've seen guys get ready for the season since I've been doing this for 4 years. One in particular that isn't getting off to the start that he was hoping for was one of the football, basketball. Now he just picked up baseball. So the big thing I've been talking with him about is like he's getting more back into baseball shape. He came and hit earlier in the week. You can it's getting there, but it's not where he's going to be 2-3 weeks down the road. And it's just because the lack of timing, the lack of reps that he's been getting. Baseball is such a rep sport where in the cage, we need to swing almost every day. If you're trying to compete at the highest of levels, you've got to be on hitting every day. Hitting is the hardest thing to do in all of sports. So imagine not doing it during your football season. You sprinkle it in here and there, but you're still stuck in basketball mode. And now you just transition right on over to, hey, our games just started, and I've only got to practice baseball for 1 week. Like this game is extremely hard. And now it's kind of the thing that you give up when you decide you want to be that 3-letter guy. And if it's you, we talk about if you want to understand and you have a goal of playing this certain sport in college, the more you can get geared towards training for that, the better you're going to be when you do arrive or to get that opportunity. The one I'm talking about now, he's a senior. He's looking for an opportunity. He wants to play college baseball, and he will. It's just the fact of I think his potential is higher than it is right now, but that's just based off he's never got to fully dedicate himself to a whole year of baseball training, and he knows that. And so his big thing is, let's just say he goes junior college, he blows it up for 2 years because he actually gets to focus solely on baseball, and then now he can transfer to that big D1. Like he's going to be way better in 2 years than he is right now because the 10,000-hour rule. He got to do this over and over and over again and put all of his time and effort and passion into getting it better at baseball. So if that's what your ultimate goal is, to try to play college baseball, you need to focus and train to do that consistently as much as possible. And I think more than anything, you can do the football and you can do the baseball. Probably the most common one. That way you get that break from November to January to get ready for your baseball season. But since I've been doing it, the basketball to baseball is the hardest transition, man. And you don't want to tell a kid not to do something because that's not our job. If they ask for our honest opinion, hey, we'll recommend doing this, but I would never tell a kid like you're wasting your time doing that, so don't do it. It would be, hey, if you really want to succeed and get off to that good start in baseball and be in full baseball shape from the get-go, like you're going to have to give up basketball this year. Now, how important is that to you? And that's ultimately you've got to make that decision on your own. So let's do some advantages and disadvantages to playing these multiple sports. All right, just because you understand, because you're playing multiple sports, you're not just magically gaining this athleticism. Like it doesn't just come to you. I think everybody thinks just because I'm playing the sport, like, man, my footwork's getting better. No, it's not. Just because you're running around doesn't mean you're kicking a ball doesn't mean your footwork is getting better. Like what is the training? A lot of the times we get better at what practice is. It's not so much the game. Practice is where you're getting better at. So let's see the advantages of doing the multi-sports and then the disadvantages of doing it. My advantages, okay, so I'm becoming a well-rounded athlete, so to speak. More importantly, I'm competing. I'm competing to win. So you're with teams, you're on the team, you're around guys, the camaraderie's there, you're competing to win. That's an advantage of it. All right, disadvantages. I go to the disadvantages now is your timing whenever you get back into that next sport is not going to be where other guys are that have been training for that. So you've got to know that going into it. Because I think a lot of times, like the one I was mentioning, he's frustrated right now because he knows he's one of the better players on his team, but he's not performing to it right now. But he's not fully ready to go like these other guys are. And if you're a pitcher and you know you have to throw a lot and you haven't been throwing because you've been doing the basketball or you've been doing the football and you're trying to transition over, like don't expect to come out throwing as hard as you can right from the get-go. You've got to work your way and build your way up to it. From a hitting standpoint, you've got to understand this takes time and reps and live reps and cage and mechanics and all that stuff blended in to get you ready to go from that season. So now at disadvantage, you're a little behind the 8 ball, and you've got to understand that you're behind the 8 ball. But once again, we're going to this is high school players right now. So the high school athletes that are serious about trying to play college at the next level, just do a look at an evaluation of where you're at, what is your skill set. We would never tell anybody not to do anything because of your size, but we know size is important. Baseball is probably the biggest one where size isn't everything. Football, bigger, stronger, faster. Those guys are going to take over. Those guys are going to go to University of Alabama. And then everything kind of trickles down from there. basketball, I mentioned it earlier, height is a big part of basketball. And yeah, you have Allen Iverson or Muggsy Bogues, one of the few short ones under 6 foot. It's very rare. You look at the football, like you look at Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray, they played multi-sports there. But I promise you, if they told you, if you could actually have a conversation with them, like how good would you be right now if you solely focused on whichever sport you really wanted to do and put all that time into it? They would both tell you they're going to succeed at the highest level. When Russell Wilson put the baseball away and started focusing on football, he went to a Super Bowl, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Kyler Murray, you're seeing the same exact thing. So they're not splitting their time and their hours. And last thing I want to hit on is these multi-sport athletes. Just think about how many you've actually seen play in college. Like you want to talk about the hardest thing to do. And you talk about Kyler Murray. He played baseball and football in college. Deion Sanders, Bo Jackson. Like there's very few rare ones that are able to pull off this feat because the reps that you have to get in are so dang important, whatever sport you're choosing. So if you're choosing baseball, imagine playing a whole football season and trying to catch up around superior athletes that are there and they've been trained for this one sport this whole time while you've been spending your other time playing another sport. So you're not going to be where you're at. So I think more importantly is athletes understand this, and you got to go back to, is this a passion for you? Do you really want to play college baseball? If you don't want to play college baseball, play all the sports you want. Or if you don't even want to play sports in college, that's fine too. Go ahead and play all of them. But if you truly have a goal of trying to play college baseball, think about how much better your chances would be if you spent more time getting ready for the season as opposed to kind of just being mediocre at this other sport, just to say you're a letter winner at that school. So you got to look in the mirror, guys, and talk to people like me and Sean. Talk to your coaches. Sean mentioned that his football coaches were going after that guy because they wanted to get him on the field. Well, they saw a good-looking athlete that could help them out. So, of course, they're going to want you to play. But you've got to make the decision. And one thing that I always tell my guys is, like, this is your career, so you choose what you want to do with it. Don't get influenced by other people and feel like you have to do things that they want you to do. It's your career. If you don't want to play the sport anymore, you have every right to say, I'm not doing it anymore, and I don't want to because this is my reason why. And they can call you all the names they want. They can say whatever. Oh, you're just a PO if you're a pitcher. Well, guess what? I might have a chance to get my college paid for and go pitch in college. That's why I'm giving up this opportunity to play. So make this decision, sit down, talk with your family about it. But more importantly, remember, this is your career, not anybody else's. So make the decision that best suits you.
Yeah, and those are really great points, especially the transition from basketball into baseball, because that's a very common thing up here in Indiana with basketball being, basketball's God up here as just like football is down in South. And people, we have this rule at Laird's Training, like if you don't put in the work, if you're not eating the right foods in the after the weight room, if you're not doing what we tell you to do, you don't have the permission to get pissed off. Like if you show any emotion of getting angry about not achieving a goal and you are putting in the work, you're not allowed to get angry. You do not have permission around me to get angry when other people are making the sacrifices and doing the things they need to do. So I say that to guys that are making that transition. Like, I get you're frustrated, but you didn't hit for the last 3-4 months during basketball season. How in the world do you think that you're going to have the same time as the guys that did hit those last 3-4 months? So again, to play devil's advocate, let's say, yes, you can play multiple sports. You can play 3 sports in high school. For me, I didn't play all those sports in high school. I did play 5 sports growing up, with track, football, baseball, basketball, and boxing. I did all these different sports. But as I got older, I started obviously veering toward my focus toward baseball, because I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted the best I absolutely possibly could with that. So saying that, if you are wanting to play college baseball, or say you're wanting to play college football and you're playing these other 2 sports, you have to find time during those seasons to at least get in 2 to 3, 4, 5 practices or some kind of sessions in a week with that. And I've said this before, like from a strength and conditioning standpoint, strength and conditioning, if it's done right, is basically its own sport within itself. So if you're wanting to play at that high level and you're not in the weight room year round, you're behind the 8 ball. You're going to be behind all these guys. Strength is never a weakness, period. And if you're not working towards strength, you're not working towards power and making yourself into a bigger, badder athlete. I'll give an example. When I was a strength and conditioning coach at the high school atmosphere at Westfield High School, we had a bunch of swimmers that wanted to train in the weight room, but the coach was just kind of like a great guy, but he was just kind of like, I don't really know how it's going to help. And there were certain parents of these kids that didn't know. I had like 2 swimmers, I think, and like one of the trimesters that we had in there. And this one swimmer, he literally busted his ass and did everything he could in the weight room. And he had never done it before. And most of those swimmers had never done that before. And this guy gets to season, and he's PRing like way before all these other guys are. Like when they first start practice, and he's getting off the blocks like super explosive, and just everything he's ever done, like he's just shattering all the numbers that he'd done in the past. And the swimming coach comes up to me and goes, "Hey, Sean, I don't know what you're doing, dude, but I'm going to send all my swimmers from now on." And he bought into it. But again, if that kid just said, "Hey, I'm just going to focus on just swimming," and I think he played tennis too. I think it was swimming and tennis. Would he get better at swimming if he wasn't focusing on strength and conditioning? The answer is no. He might have gotten better doing his sport specific skills, but would he made himself into a stronger, more explosive athlete? The answer is no. Like there are, and we've talked this before, there's sport specific things, but there's also, plane specific things and strength specific things, core stability things that you can do in the weight room that you cannot do in the water or you cannot do on the baseball field. And that's a perfect example of treating strength and conditioning as its own sport and year round. That is the one sport that everybody, as early as possible, should be doing year round, no matter what. That's I have a firm belief in that, and all the research shows that. And again, like for those that didn't hear the podcast before, strength and conditioning does not stunt growth. Youth kids can do that. Like that myth has been debunked. But to get back into what you're saying, Adam, is like, when you guys are bouncing from sport to sport to sport, you're going to have that kind of that growing pain period of kind of getting yourself back up to speed. There are some super elite athletes that can bounce right in there and be fine. But also if you're playing at a high level, like down in Alabama, like there's a lot higher level of football and a lot higher level of baseball down there when it comes to, per capita for amount of players. Like, I could only imagine certain guys that would get done with basketball season and trying to play at the higher level. Like there's certain conferences here in Indiana. Like we have one conference here in Indiana that has, 3-4 90-mile-an-hour arms on every team. And there's some conferences that have 82-mile-an-hour arms on every team. And like, you got to understand, like you're only as good as what you prepare yourself for. And if you don't prepare yourself, you're going to have those growing pains. And so for the parents that are listening to this, like, you have to understand, like, if you want to build these elite athletes, you want to do all these things, there has to be sacrifices. Like I knew when I was playing basketball, and during basketball season in 8th grade, I think 8th grade was my last year of playing basketball. I wanted to be a super stud baseball player. So during basketball season, which we were practicing 6 days a week, playing games 6 days a week, I was still hitting 3-4 days a week. I was still doing lessons 2 days a week. I was still doing something. You can go to track season. Like I would leave track and I'd go straight to baseball practice, and I wouldn't get home till 8 o'clock every night. Do I sit back and go, man, I really ruined my childhood because I was playing sports till 8 o'clock at night? No, those are my fondest memories. I wasn't sitting at home in front of a TV watching, whatever on TV and eating Cheetos. I was working and developing my craft and my skill because I knew what I wanted to do. And it obviously worked out very well for me. And the knowledge I have from the training aspect from all my experiences helps me play in other sports as well. Like for you, Adam, you said like, football is the hardest by far. Boxing and that type of training was by far the hardest for me in the mental toughness and the speed. And I always tell people like, so one of the reasons why I had such quick twitch and quick hands at the plate was boxing. It helped me so much at that younger age. But, understanding like, playing at that elite level, without elite level work ethic, without elite level training, without elite level preparation, there is no elite level person. There is no elite level athlete. And you have to make that transition. But one thing I kind of want us to finish on go ahead, Bub.
Yeah, and like I could not imagine going from the hardwood on basketball to facing a 90-mile-an-hour arm open at night.
Yeah.
Like as a hitter, that would just be frightening. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not ready to do that. That ball is 90, but it's going to look like it's coming 97, 98 because your timing, you haven't been getting the reps that all the guys at practice that have been getting. And it's not your fault because you were playing another sport, but just say you don't play that other sport, you get to participate. Because I know here in Alabama, and I'm sure they have the same rules in Indiana, is when you're in that sport season, you're not allowed to partake right now. some of them are missing their first week of the baseball season because they're at the state tournament or they're in the playoffs right now. So they're not even getting to play, much less practice, because of these rules that the Alabama High School Association has.
Yep.
So they're literally just jumping back up and putting their cleats on, strapping up Sandlot style, and competing when they get back out there. So you've got to understand that you're going to be behind. And the last point, I love that you hit on the strength and conditioning is its own sport. Parents, if you can invest in this, me and Sean talk about it all the time, is parents will spend money in all these different places, but that strength and conditioning standpoint is where they do not do it, and that's where you get the most bang for your buck. If you can spend a whole season, say you give up basketball seasons 3 months, 3 or 4 months, whatever it is, and you dedicate yourself to 3 to 4 months of working out, yes, you don't get to post the pictures that you're out there winning games, at 9 points, whatever it is. But I promise you, when you get to post that picture of your before and after, when you first showed up to 4 months after training, and then you're getting ready to go out on the baseball field and you smoke 3 doubles, you're open a night, like, you're going to know that was worth it. And you're going to know that I chose the sport of strength and conditioning over basketball because I was wanting to get ready for my baseball season, and I'm reaping the benefits of that hard work. And now I'm able to show out, and kids and parents can put this up on Facebook or Twitter, wherever they're at, as opposed to worrying about what they're doing during that season. So please, we can't stress you guys enough. Get into a strength and conditioning program. It is the best money that you'll ever spend.
Mm-hmm. And those are all 100%. I'm on the same page with you. And I know we meet on the same level when it comes to that. And when it comes to the parents, like, and this is parents, coaches, whatever, like, everybody talks a big game about development. Everybody wants their kid, to be a multi-sport athlete and play all these sports and stuff. And I see a lot of parents that do things right. I see a lot of parents that invest in their children, invest on experiences, and really help them when it comes to preparing them for the real world. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, everything we're talking about is going to prepare them for the real world. If you want to own a business, you want to be the best business in town. If you think that only spending an hour a week and only doing it 3 months out of the year is going to make you an elite level business owner, you're crazy. You start using these analogies to real life. Like, name a painter that only spends 1 hour a week at a lesson and becomes the next Michelangelo. It's not going to happen. Like, you have to put in the effort, you have to put in the time, the muscle memory. There's just so much. But for you parents, like, for the other aspect, I see a lot of parents and they complain and they don't want to spend money. It's easy for them to want to spend money and pay for the new iPhone and spend $1,500 on stuff like that, but they won't spend $1,500 for 5 months of strength and conditioning or 6 months of strength and conditioning, whatever it is. And they want their kid to be a college baseball player, but they won't invest in lessons, or they want their kid to be ready for baseball season. And during basketball, they're doing absolutely nothing. And then they're getting pissed at their kid because they're not performing when baseball season starts. Cause that, like you just said, in the transition, parents, I hear people talking all the time, they want to make a lot of money and they want to do all these things, but nobody's making the sacrifices. And to me, as parents, it is our jobs to show our children and show that next generation what it means to be a hard worker, what it means to invest in things. I will always invest. Like we made a payment to my daughter's gymnastics, and people were complaining about the payment to gymnastics. Like, oh man, like we got to do this. And I'm just like, what is wrong with you? Like, your kid loves doing that. Your kid is enjoying this so much right now. And you're being an ass sitting here saying you're complaining about paying for this. If my son or daughter is enjoying a sport and enjoying going to a lesson or enjoying going to something, and they're getting benefit and they're growing, physically and mentally from it, I would be absolutely crazy and a big POS if I was going to sit there and say, hey, I'm just going to stop this right now just because whether that I don't believe in what this instructor is doing, or this person, rubs me the wrong way, or I don't want to spend this money because I want to go out to eat and spend $1 million getting fast food all the time. Like, to me, as parents, like, we've got to do a better job of creating this community of hey, let's invest in experiences. Let's not buy this toy or buy this iPad. Let's invest in our son playing, this sport and this strength and conditioning program, or let's invest in my son. Maybe he's going to this certain class instead, learning how to defend himself. Maybe this kid's going, he really loves painting, and I'm gonna take him to somebody that really is going to help him teach and let him kind of experience it and show his artwork and really get out some of his expression and some of his emotion that he has. Like, there's so many things, there's so many avenues for children and for young athletes to go out and express and develop mentally and physically. And there's so many parents that, especially nowadays, like everybody's looking for the easy way out. Nobody wants to do the hard work. Nobody like I there are days like 2 days ago, I had somebody email me. And usually alerts training, I always have this kind of rule. I'll respond to emails within 24 to 48 hours. Sometimes it takes me 48 hours to respond. And somebody emailed me and was they were kind of like, "Hey, did you get my email?" Like a little like, "Hey, you need to respond back to me really quickly." And I did get it, but I was running around all day to gymnastics with my kids, to preschool with my kids, going and getting groceries with my kids, taking them, outside to play in the snow. There are certain things that I needed to take as a priority right there because that was what was most important at the time. And even though my business 100% is important and I treat my clients like their family and always will do that, I also got to understand that investing in my children and developing them, I don't want to talk a big game. I want to be about it, and I want to do things when I post on social media. Some people talk about like, Laird, you're almost like you're shaming me. I should be exercising. You make me feel bad because I should be doing something. And I go, good. And they're like, what? Good. I go, because I'm showing that you can do this and you should be doing this. Just like when I see somebody at my age that's making $2, $3, $4 million and he's learning different things and learning, how to invest and how to put programs online. I'm like, well, damn, I should be doing that stuff. I need to be better because here I am. I mean, I'm 34 years old. People consider me an expert. I know a lot of people consider you an expert as well, Adam, as they should. I still invest in myself. I will spend money, even though people pay me money to develop their children and make them and help make them elite athletes or help build them elite athletes. I shouldn't say make because the kids make themselves. I wanted to say that, but I help show them the way. I'm always investing in myself and paying for programs because maybe I could pick up a new nugget here. Maybe I can learn from this person here. Because whatever problem that we've had, there's somebody that's already got the answer for it. And whether you can figure that out now or figure it out later, like we have got as parents, you can't be talking a big game and then not backing it up. I just wanted to get that out right there because I see so many people, not willing to invest in their goals for their children. And we talked about this before with baseball lessons. And even when you do invest and you do help with your children, does that mean that they're going to be the next Mike Trout after 1 year of lessons? Hell no. It's a long process and we're going to develop. And as long as we see that meter moving upward, we're doing the right things.
Yeah, and I mean, you brought up a great point in like investing. And so both of us have done the Florida Baseball Ranch certification. Did we have to do that? No. We've already had successful programs if we have ran, but we learn more things to help our athletes continue to get better. If we're not learning as coaches, we're doing our athletes a disservice. So we're always going to chase to find that next thing that we can do to get better at it. And that old saying is something that is very pricey. It's probably worth the price that there is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a reason that filet costs the other steaks. Like, it's just the way life is. If it's that good, then you're going to get what you pay out of it. You're going to get what you pay for. So you can decide if you go to the grocery store, if you're going to get that grocery store brand or you're going to get the big name brand that everybody knows. Yeah, it's a little bit more expensive, but you're getting the quality, the product, and everything that's coming behind it. So invest in yourselves, invest in your kids. And when you're investing in your kids, you're not investing in them expecting them to become college baseball stars and get scholarships. Like, no, that's not why you do it. If that happens, awesome. But you're investing because the kid loves it. He has a passion for it. He's getting better. He's learning things. He's not just coming here to learn just about baseball. He's learning so much about life. When he plays team sports, he's learning about life. And you're learning about failures. You're learning about succeeding, how to pick each other up. You're learning all of these things that you're building to ultimately carry on through life. Because like you said before in the last podcast, at some point, baseball comes to an end for all of us. It's the way it is. And so what are you going to do after baseball's over with? What did baseball teach you to get you ready for the next step in your life? And ultimately for us, our next step was to open businesses and coach young athletes, everything that we learned and everything that we continue to learn. So when you make these investments, understand why you're doing it. And I know money is a huge deal, but you've got to understand you're getting what you're paid for. And if you don't feel like it, you can always pull out, but you'll never know until you try. Just like if you're investing into a company or into a business or stocks, you don't know what's going to happen to it. You're just kind of taking a chance with it. And it's a little gamble. Let's see if it works out. If it does, awesome. If not, hey, I took a chance hoping it would work out. It didn't. So now I'm going to pull my stuff out. So an investment, it can be risky, but number one, like we talked about before, is just do your research on things. And if you're seeing a lot of successful people, you're seeing a lot of successful athletes, videos, people that are doing well, I promise you there's something behind it. Don't expect that just because you go to that person, you're going to start hitting like them. It's going to be a process, but understand that's where it all begins. And now you can make that investment. Because I promise you, if we had some parents that come on that have been with us for a while, they'd be more than happy to talk about the investment they made in their son and how they're seeing it pay off, both on the field, off the field, how they're carrying themselves in the weight room, all the above that they're learning from this.
Yeah, and that's 100% point. That's on point right there. Money comes and goes, but your experiences with your children, there's only a certain amount of time in this world that we can have that. There's only a certain amount of time that you have to invest in your children. And this might even seem like a sales pitch. Oh my God, here we go. LT and Heisler Heat are selling. This isn't about us. This is about what we are thinking with our children. This is about what you're doing. Because if you want your kid to play multiple sports, you should make sure they're investing in a strength and conditioning program. You should be investing in mental toughness training, whether that is another sport or you are sitting down having conversations and teaching your kids about life. Like, you have to invest the time, and if it costs me money, so be it. Whatever it is, I will do what I need to do when it comes to my kids. But again, those multiple sport athletes, those parents, they'll be the first ones to tell you that are playing 3 sports, they're going to spend more money. They're in more sports. They're in more programs. So they're going to be doing more things. They might even have, PT that they need to take care of, because obviously injuries happen. Like, you have to invest in the bodies of your children. Like, treat their bodies like you would treat a Corvette. You put the right gas in, like you were talking about the last podcast. Guys, like, if you want to be elite, multiple sport athlete, hell yeah, go for it. Do all these sports, but understand there's certain sacrifices that you need to make to be good at those 3 sports. Also, you want to play multiple sports? Okay, I get it. But if you want to play elite level baseball or elite level football, or, college at that next level and in a sport, is that sport going to help you achieve those goals? That's something you need to be understanding, because a lot of guys, like, I was using the energy system. It's like guys running cross country, and he's trying to gain 40, 50 pounds for baseball season. That doesn't make sense. And the kids want to play college baseball. So, guys, I hope you really enjoyed this episode. We're going to end it right here, because I think that's the best we could end it right there, to get you guys to understand this process. And, Adam and I, do we know everything? Absolutely not. But do we have a lot of experience in this? 100%. We've seen a lot of guys, a lot of people grow themselves into elite level athletes. We've seen a lot of multiple sport athletes excel because they were elite athletes. And, there's a different path for everybody. So make sure you guys understand that. But, and hope if you did enjoy this podcast, make sure you guys please like and share it. Leave that 5-star review. Adam, is there anything else you want to close out on with?
No, that's it, guys. And just remember, hitting is the hardest thing in doing all the sports. So even if you're playing football during the year, don't put the bat away completely. You still got to get your swings in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, till next time, guys, we'll see you later.